people who are entrepreneurs are ideas. Boom, boom. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. And I would venture to say you probably are too. If you're 24 and you're already doing a podcast regularly, you probably have other things that you want to do. And he says, get one thing right first. Pause on all these other ideas you have because they're there. Get one thing right. Because if you're trying to do everything, you're not doing anything. Well, some people just aren't going to get it.
Mm,
And
mm,
in my view, that's the best time to teach them because it's not just the skill. It's taking a kid who, if an emergency happened, might be like,
mm.
to I can help, I can do something, I'm a leader, I can serve other people. And then they build confidence and they feel empowered. It is so much more than the skill. It's switching on.
So, Dustin, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, my unc.
It was inspiring to see you on Shark Tank, and obviously, always inspired by young entrepreneurs like you doing something to aware kids so that they can protect themselves. Not only kids, but everyone. I think you're working on that.
Yes.
So, I want to know firstly, like you did a job for 21 years. Did
Hmm.
you have any plans for entrepreneurship, doing something of your own? How did that came?
Not really. I absolutely loved the fire and EMS service. I don't know, what do you call the emergency medical services in India? Is it the same ambulance or EMS?
Yes, ambulance we say, and firefight the fire
Yeah.
services obviously a
Yes.
big tank comes to uh,
Yes. So
like all.
our fire department does both fire and EMS, and I absolutely love that. I love serving the community. I love all the challenges that came with it. In the back of my head, I'd always like, you see things like Shark Tank, think, well, if I ever started a business, I wonder what it would be. But I didn't have any real drive because I liked what I was doing. However, my wife started a summer camp, a youth summer camp, which plays into how this all came about right before we got married. So it's been almost 14 years she's been doing that. So I got to see her as an entrepreneur. So it seemed attainable if I ever wanted to do something, but I was good in my career. So not really, my unc. I didn't have a goal to do anything specific.
So yeah, I see your career has been like distributed as a, so firstly as a Blackhawk helicopter pilot, as a firefighter, as a paramedic, right?
Hmm.
In which in all these roles, people life depend on your decisions, right?
Hmm.
What do you think? Which of these roles have shaped you the most?
The most is definitely the fire department because I was only 22 when I started. So still a very young man, and being around those people and having to grit through long hours. We work 24-hour shifts. Um, and working around good people kind of shapes you, having to deal with seeing a lot of messed up things. That shaped me the most. I actually, the army was kind of a secondary thing. I was 30 years old when I joined the army, and I didn't do much there, my unc. I did the training. I found out that flying was actually not the best role for me. I graduated and all, but I never did deploy. So that had less of a role in shaping me as it did. I see your shirt now too. That's cool. Than the fire department. That was what shaped me the most as far as career.
Awesome. So I think till now everyone has seen you as a Shark Tank founder. I would like you to like tell me about your life, which people don't know.
So, well, yeah, thank you. I guess I don't explain that a lot, but first of all, faith is most important. Following God and but open to whatever other people believe as well. My wife and I are very close, and my family is very close. So, who am I? I'm a man of faith and a man of family first, more than anything. Um, and then when I think about, how do I want to present myself and make an impact in this world? It's being open to following the path that God puts you on. And right now, that is very much wanting to teach and share this knowledge of just to get from zero to pretty capable of doing something in emergency, because so many times in fire and EMS, we would show up and people are just had done nothing, not because they didn't want to do something, they just didn't know. And so they froze. So giving a little bit of training gives a lot confidence, and then people can at least do something. So that's the mission right now.
Yeah. Is there any incident or any problem like which happened to you, like which gave this trigger to solve this problem?
People have asked that a few times, my unc, and there is no one like, aha, there was none of that. It was a slow progression of just being on this path So, first, my wife, when she started the summer camp, she's teaching kids age 5 to 12. Or it's fun and there's some educational components, but I had been to survival school in the Army, and of course, I was in fire and EMS. And so she said, "Hey, come teach these skills to kids at my camp." So I started a survival program. We taught fire, shelter, water, signaling, and then first aid was 1 day of that 5 day program. And just teaching the basics, sling, splint, tourniquet. That's all I would teach. Kids loved it. They were capable. They felt like I can help. So that was a big part of it. And that progressed over years. Well, then we had our own kids, and I wanted to teach them a little bit of these things. And then as a father, when I wanted to go, we go out with the kids, we have the diaper bag. I'm not going to carry a huge first aid kit like I have in my car, but I would just take triangle bandages, put them in there because I know I can do so much with them. And so that was a little progression. And then there was somewhat of an incident that got started in teaching. And I pulled up this image on my phone. A friend of mine who was a United States Marine, and he had to medically retire after he got shot up. This is a little bit of a gruesome picture if I can show,
Yeah,
but
you can show.
so this is a leg injury. A kid was riding an ATV, we call him a four-wheeler, and he texted me, said, "Hey, this is my neighbor. He's a 15-year-old boy. He got in a wreck. His leg was bleeding profusely. His buddy had a similar training. He made a tourniquet out of I think it's a sweater or sweatshirt, and saved the kid's life." He's like, "You need to come teach me and my buddy." So that was another incident where I started teaching adult classes, and all these things came together, Mayank, where well, okay, one of the sorry, it's a long story because there was no one thing. And then another thing was, as my kids got older, I was like, I want to get them a good first aid kit that they have capability with, that they can have. So if daddy's not around, they can take care of themselves, or mom. And I went on Amazon like we all do, and look, well, that's just Band-Aids. Look, well, that's like some cheap tweezers and Band-Aids and smiley face stickers. No, I'll make my own. And these progressions just started, and said, well, if I make my own, it's got to have triangle bandages because that's what I carry as a multi-tool, and kept on going from there. God just kept nudging me. You need to do this. So
Yeah.
here we are.
So yeah, it started as a like you can say a mission, or maybe as a good thing to aware kids, small kids, so that they can help themselves and other peoples also. So
Absolutely.
when does this transition happen that you can do or make this a business, a profitable business or a profitable company?
Yeah, well, the profitable we're still working on. It's difficult. So when I said I wanted to get my kids a good, capable first aid kit, and I talked to it and showed a few people my ideas, and a lot of people were like, "This is really good." Which, I mean, first aid kits, there's a lot of them out there. So I just started doing it. I'm the type of person to jump in with both feet and learn how to swim later. So I just started doing it, and my first version of the first aid kit was okay. And as I was designing that first aid kit, I said, "Well, like I said, I have to have triangle bandages in there." It's like, "Well, let me make a custom one that's durable and reusable. You know what? I should put a logo on there, and then maybe I should put pictures." I had seen survival bandanas where they had written words. This is how you build a fire. This is how you build shelter. And I thought that's kind of neat, but I want to make it kid friendly because I teach at my wife's summer camp kids. And so then the first aid kit became a secondary mission, and that triangle bandage being the one single tool. Because teaching anyone, but especially kids, you need to bring everything down to the simplest thing that they can remember very easily. So if I have one tool and picture, stick figure instructions, we can bring that capability level up very high in a very simple way. And uh, and I just started going for it. There wasn't like, I'm going to decide to make this a business. It was just like, I'm going to throw this out there and see what happens. And here we are.
And when this all started, like you had kids at that time when you started, when you had to take the decision to that you will be doing this full time,
Yeah,
right?
that was only about 2 years ago. So yes, our kids, my uncle, are 10 years old, 8, 6, and 5. So yes, we already had kids, and
Yeah.
it's a little crazy because when I called my wife, I was on duty at the fire station. "Hey, what do you think if I retired early and just pursue this full time?" She's like, "Go for it." And so we just went for it.
Yeah, so one question which I got is like, see, like obviously women like stability, right? You have
Mhm.
4 kids, obviously you are doing a job, you getting a stable salary. So
Mhm.
how much it took a lot of courage, I think, to take a bet on something that I will do this
Mhm.
full, I will build this as a company, and you don't know the output right that time, that it will be a profitable or not, I will get failed or success.
Mhm.
Be- because obviously 4 kids are a dependency. You have a wife, you have a 4 kids, that is a dependency. And obviously you had that responsibility, and obviously many of the people don't have much savings, obviously, that if it
Mhm.
gets failed also. So yeah, how did you manage that? How did that courage came, like I can leave my job and then I can do this full time, while I can still expect I can raise my kids that much smoothly, there is no risk.
Very good question. Lot of answers there. So I started the last 2 years of my service in the fire department. I moved on purpose to a less busy station because I just got it in my head I was going to build something on my own. The first aid thing, like it, I started working on it for 2 years before I finally said, "Hey, babe, what do you think if I went full time?" So I already had been working for 2 years while doing this stable job. Um, but I believe in always having a backup plan and a backup to the backup plan. That's something the military is very good at. They always say two is one and one is none. So you got to have a backup. So a lot of things were slow progression. So we started trying to work towards financial independence 10 years ago. We bought a rent house and started renting it out. And we ended up buying another couple and selling them, as kind of learning the game. So we have one rental property that's bringing in income. Then my wife's summer camp. Now, after once we hit year 9 or 10, started making some amount of money that's a help, a lot, it's a big help. And then after I hit 20 years in the fire department, you can get a half of a pension. Do you guys have pension in India?
Yes,
Like a
we have.
retirement. So at 20 years, you can get half. At 30 years, you get the full amount, the full that you can get. So at 20, I knew I had a little safety net, half of the paycheck. Plus, we had the rent house, plus my wife's camp. And I started also dabbling in investing. So I said, okay, I've got the rent house, I've got the pension, the investments, if they work out, this will be really good. And this. So I did have multiple, over 10 years, my unc,
Mm,
setting up little backup plans so that if I wanted
mm,
to do something, I could.
mm,
Again, not knowing I didn't have a drive to start a business, but I wanted to start setting up those backup plans. So for anybody today, start now, whatever it is. I tell a lot of young people, if you the most accessible, easy thing is either an online business or a rental property because you can get a loan and then you have something working towards financial freedom. We still have struggled a lot. So making that decision was still like, oof. And I've accumulated some debt trying to get, you buy inventory, have to pay for trademarks and patents, stuff like that. Um, but the biggest thing, my unc, is my wife having faith and also the guts to say, yeah, let's do this because we have faith in ourselves. We have faith in God that if we just keep doing something that is good, then good things will come. And I know a lot of people, my own family, some of them are like, that is crazy. You should have stayed working at the fire department. I could have, but sometimes you just
yes.
go for it. And I felt pulled in that direction strong enough. And having such a good wife that says, yes, let's do this together, you just go.
So yeah, the one message for all the aspiring entrepreneurs is have a backup, start making a backup, and then take calculated risk.
Yes, calculated risk, definitely. And also it start today because at the time we bought that first rental house, my wife was like, "No, we're not yet. We have this other stuff going on," but I did it anyway, and she supported me afterwards. I mean, she's always been very supportive. That was one thing that was like, but then you look back 10 years, now things almost paid off and it's bringing in income. But whatever it was, like I said, I had worked on this project for 2 years and I remember my unc, a moment where I had thought about doing something like this, and I looked at a calendar and like, that was a year ago, and I haven't done anything. I'm going to start today because I could have had a year of progress, even if it's just 20 minutes a day. So a backup plan and start today and know that there's risk. You just have to have some faith. Those are the
Yeah.
three biggest.
And the best thing which you said, having a backup plan, is renting a property or starting an online business, I think you said.
Yeah. Those are the two, I think, most accessible things to do to begin that backup plan.
Yeah, and obviously doing a little, be it 20 minutes, working towards your goal consistently,
Mhm.
every day. That is
Yes.
important, I think.
A little bit every day. Again, when you look back in a year, "Oh, wow, I've now
It
built a
compounds.
website, and I have now designed a product." It took a year, but,
Yeah.
you had to start somewhere.
Let's talk about your like job background. like what you learned from your your job journey, like obviously, like what values, like from your service background, you, and is there any learnings from that background you which helped you in entrepreneurship?
Yes. One is grit, because especially in the fire department, even military, again, I never deployed, but the training, they make you have to grit through things. In the fire department, there's constant learning because you could never know it all. So I carry that still to continue learning. And then we work 24-hour shifts. So when it's hour 21 and you're exhausted and a serious call comes in, you just have to grit through it. Teamwork, that's both fire, EMS, and military, knowing that there's value in everyone. So I remember meeting guys both in the military and in the fire department. First impression, I'm like, this person seems like maybe not smart or maybe kind of lazy or just off. But you give it some time and you work with them a little bit and like, oh, but they know this thing really well. Or when when it's serious, they switch it on and they work hard. Or maybe they show more compassion towards a patient than anyone else. So that a first impression, if you just give people enough time, they can impress you. You have to look for it sometimes, but so there's value in everyone. And so I've learned that where, especially since we've been on Shark Tank, people talk, "Oh, how's this? I have this idea and that idea," and they're not all good, but maybe. So take the time to listen to other people. That's a big one, and see value in everyone. The grit, I already said. Oh, and also letting things roll off your shoulders, because in the fire department, even flying and training, flying a Blackhawk, things can go wrong and people can die. In the fire department, I experienced a lot of death around, and so now if I get some accounting thing wrong, or Amazon mislabeled a product and now I have to go back, nobody's gonna die. So so that taught me just to let things roll off your shoulder and just go with it. Things will go wrong. You will get punched in the face and you just have to keep going. So those are big things that from that background make it a little easier in business, although business is not easy.
So yeah, you faced a lot of like obviously bad things like death of
Mhm.
people that made you strong enough to face battles like these in your business.
Absolutely. Uh,
So
when you can't stress over something like paperwork when the stress previously was literally a life. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So obviously, when the idea came, like you told, your wife had faith in you. Obviously, uh,
Mhm.
obviously, when you told the idea to someone, did people had doubt on you or had misconceptions around your idea? Any?
Yes, more so than misconceptions was a lack of interest or a lack of understanding, because everyone is in their own thing. Like you are probably more focused on podcasting or whatever else you do. And so if someone comes up to you and wants to tell you about this new jewelry design, you're like, good for you, but I don't really care, you know? And so first aid and all that stuff is something that if it's not right in front of you because you've experienced an injury and or emergency in your life, then it's like, yeah, that's over there. I don't need to worry about that. So that is a little bit of a challenge. And I even had I shared the triangle bandage. We call it the medic multi-tool. I've been trying to share it with a lot of people. And this one guy, it was a couple years ago, said I showed it to a friend of mine who's a captain in the fire department in a different state. And he said, "That's silly. Why would you teach that to kids?" And I was like, "Okay, well, some people just aren't going to get it." And in my view, that's the best time to teach them, because it's not just the skill. It's taking a kid who, if an emergency happened, might be like, to I can help, I can do something, I'm a leader, I can serve other people, and then they build confidence and they feel empowered. It is so much more than the skill. It's switching on, well, like I said, leadership, service. It's really helping to grow character. And so I had to understand that some people just won't get that. And even now, my uncle, we still get like hateful messages sometimes on our we post instructional videos on Instagram, and people say really negative things, and so I have to understand. I mean, people hated Jesus. People are going to hate what you do some way or another. So yes, there's been pushback, and there's more so just a lack of interest because it's not right in front of you. And it's kind of like a lot of young people when you talk about investing, it's like, well, yeah, but I want to take this vacation, so I'll worry about that later. When they become interested, they'll get it, and until then, we're here. So,
Yeah.
and then the other pushback was, a little bit of the family and friends of like, "Are you really gonna pursue this?" Because if people have never tried to run a business, or even people who have, like, it's hard, that's kinda risky. So no major, but a lot of those little things, and you just have to look past them. And I seek out mentorship from a lot of books, podcasts, and those who are successful say the same thing. It's you go for it. You have to filter out the noise and focus on the positive.
Yeah. Did any of those negative messages or any of the doubts which people had on you gave you any stress? How did you handle that?
A little bit, but never enough to knock me down or knock us down, because my wife's a big part of it.
Mm.
Um, and when I do see or experience those any of those negative things, it happens to me often. I don't know if you ever do this, but if you are driving by a store, and maybe this store sells accessories for pickup trucks, and I'm like, "That's a business that's making money. They've been there for years. I will never buy their product. I don't care to put accessories on my truck." There was a Shark Tank pitch that we saw where this woman had for water bottles, she had decorations for them and like different things that you could add on. And like, that is silly. I would never buy that. She's like, oh, yeah, we're doing 7 figures a year. And so, hockey sticks. I don't play hockey. I'll never play hockey, but there's people selling hockey sticks out there. So when I see all these things, I think, okay, I won't ever buy their product, but they're a successful business. So that means that mine can be successful too. So I can listen to this negative or I can say, no, there's a place for me. I know that I'm providing value, at least to some people, and I'll continue to try to provide value in the world. And whatever small percentage of people appreciate that, those are the ones I'm going for. And so that helps me to get past the negative and to let it not affect me.
But why kids? Like, what affected you? Like, why only kids? Why not adults and or
Okay.
professionals?
Solid question. I started off, I showed you that picture and I started teaching adult classes in addition to teaching in my wife's summer camp because someone said, hey, we need this. This happened to my neighbor. Uh, and then I wanted to participate more in that teaching and that training. And I told you about trying to buy my kids a first aid kit. I wanted to also build out a really good adult first aid kit. But if I go to search online, there are hundreds of good adult first aid kits. And there's just a handful of pretty good kid first aid kits. And I have never seen one that has the capability as ours just with triangle bandages. It's such a simple tool to add and a little bit of training that increases the capability of tourniquets and slings and splints and wound packing. So that plus I've been working with kids for years at the summer camp. We have 4 kids. The market I think is a little more niche. So there's slightly less competition. And then also it's just near and dear to my heart because if I'm trying to schedule training classes with adults, adults have a lot on their plate and they are either very interested or like, I'll do this. But when I teach kids, they get excited and they feel, like I said, like leaders and empowered superheroes. And also they have time. So if I can teach them, I can turn them into a leader earlier and I give them skills that now they get to use for many more decades. So the culmination of all those different things made it so where this is where we are. And I still teach adult classes. I teach them kind of often, but kids, it's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. So you talked about like you handle the negativity or some books or podcast prepared you to handle that. Can you share
Mhm.
us like the books, the podcast or the movies which have really influenced you or prepared you or gave you a lot of learnings to be there where you are?
Okay, good question. So what you do right now is so valuable, at least in my opinion, because all of those things have helped me to grow a lot. And so thank you for what you do in providing podcasts and hearing people's stories. So one of the bigger ones as far as life and business goes is a book called Extreme Ownership by a former Navy SEAL named Jocko Willink. Um, and he basically just talks about take ownership of everything. Everything is your fault, whether it's good or it's bad. Whatever, find what you can do, fix it, and don't complain about it. And it talks about being humble. If you're a leader, you need to be humble. Don't think you're the best because someone's better than you at everything and learn from those people. Work hard, don't quit, all the things. And then what's beautiful about Jocko, the author, he also wrote kids' books that instill the same values. And we read them to our kids. And then they will, like a month later, be like, well, Jocko said in the book, like, okay, you're absorbing this. This is beautiful. So that's a big one. Another one that I think everyone should read is a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
read that.
I've read it a couple times and I need to read it more because it's such a different way of thinking about success. Um, So that one is a big one and turned me on. Another huge one is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think probably everyone's heard of that as far as how you should view money. Podcasts, Jocko, that same author has a podcast that's been good. Diary of a CEO is a really good one. The guy from the UK. And then just hearing people, if you and I were friends and we're talking about the latest book we read and you mentioned something, those random little additions to your intake of information are also extremely valuable and never stop. Like now that there's audiobooks, 20 years ago, those were less prevalent. I am so addicted to learning through books and podcasts. I wake up in the morning, I turn on my little headphones, and by the time I'm brushing my teeth, I'm listening to a book or a podcast because I love it. Once the kids wake up, okay, I'm present with the kids, and I go for a jog, podcast, go for a drive, book. Like it's just
Uh,
constant because there's so much good stuff out there. So never stop doing that.
yeah, awesome. But one thing, like obviously, listening to podcasts, listening to books. See, if we talk about the youth, like obviously of my age, I'm 24 right now,
Okay.
doing a job. Everyone wants to be lazy. Not everyone, but yeah, people want to be lazy. Obviously, every people want things which give them pleasure,
Hmm.
and listening to some productive things, I think, takes efforts and your mind efforts also. So how do you train yourself for that much hard work every time?
You have great questions. So thank you for that. Recently on the Diary of a CEO podcast, he hosted the author of the book called Atomic Habits. Are you familiar
Yes,
with that?
I have.
You are? Okay. Uh, and what he recommended was something that I had done years ago. I was like, oh, okay. I'll give you an example. Whenever I was in high school, I played football in South Texas. Everyone plays football. But I was really skinny. So I thought, how can I be more competitive? I need to be stronger. So I'm going to do 5 push-ups every day. That's nothing. Then 10. But I had to tie it to something. Before I brush my teeth, you wake up and you're, I need to go brush my teeth. I'm not allowed to brush my teeth until I do 5 push-ups and then 10, and then it became 50. And then, so that just created a habit. It was so easy to attain. 5 push-ups is nothing. It takes 10 seconds. It's nothing. But that habit was created. And so the author of Atomic Habits, I can't remember his name, said the same thing. You tie it into something you already do, whether it's cook food, brush your teeth, whatever, and do something that is so easy that you can't not do it. So to train yourself, instead of scrolling on things that, like you said, give you pleasure or allows you to be lazy, make it a goal to spend 5 minutes
Yeah,
and do it the same time every day. So then you haven't maybe gained a lot from 5 minutes a day, but you have formed a habit. And once that habit has gone for so long, several months maybe, it's just there. And then, and I used to not like eating vegetables, but you read an article, it's so healthy. I'm going to make a habit of eating a little bit of this every day. And now I love it. So I used to hate reading. In college, I was like, I'm sick of all this. And about a year out of college, I was like, you know what? Go check out a book. And then you create a habit. So a little, just like the business, a little bit every day, make it become a habit. And then over time, you probably start to love it if it's something that's good for you, like the exercise, the vegetables, the reading. But make it so easy to do that you can't not do it. That's, I think, a big part.
one more problem which I see around me is, you said that you read those books also to your kids also.
Hmm.
Right now, the kids which are around me in India also, which are around
Hmm.
in my family also, what they are doing is scrolling YouTube shorts.
Mm.
And parents, I haven't seen parents doing those, like reading books, productive thing to their kids, or teaching them maybe a first aid kit to their kids. I haven't seen around me. I want you to give some tips, give some guidance of parenting, of what parents can do those little things to make their kids better, or maybe
Well, it
what you
definitely
do.
definitely is a decision. Every parent, and I never judge other parents because everyone wants to give the best to their kids, and your way is going to be different than mine. But it's definitely a decision, and a lot of it's through observation. Like I said, books and podcasts got me to see what other people are doing, so then maybe I should do that too. And that, for me, I think is through parenting as well. My wife and I both have strong families, so I can look at my big sister or her big sister and how they raise their kids, and then say, man, that looks like something I should do. So when one person within your greater circle of friends and family makes that decision to step outside the box and say, I'm going to start reading educational books, or I'm going to set a limit on that screen time, then to not just hold it in, but make it a point to talk about it, not in a judgmental way. So let's say I decided my kids are going to study Spanish or Hindi for 10 minutes a day. And I go outside of what everyone else is doing and I start to make them do that. And I don't look at other parents and say, hey, you should do this. I say, oh, yeah, you know what I started doing recently is I had my kids do this 10 minutes of Spanish before they were allowed to scroll on YouTube Shorts. And it's been pretty neat because, my son the other day said, dame leche, give me milk. And, that was kind of fun and cool. I didn't make any judgment. I didn't say you should do it. I said what I've been doing and how it made something improvement in my family. I didn't say you should try it. I just said this was neat. So now I'm allowing someone else to observe that and maybe think about it. And then maybe that person tries it and they talk. So the point is sharing. It's what you're doing via podcast. You're sharing things and allowing other people to absorb them. And then they're going to decide or not whether they're going to do it. Because there will always be lazy people. There will always be thieves. And there will always be hardworking innovators, loving people. And I think the more we expose the good to people, and that's what's around them, then maybe they'll lift up. So what is the tip? Find those people who are doing them and bring it out in conversation so that that becomes more of a norm around you to do those things. And maybe it's gifting things or doing it yourself. If you said you have your family, maybe it's you hanging out with the cousins and you get one of Jocko's books and you're like, check out this cool story. I want to read you the first chapter, or put it on audiobook while we go for a walk. And then you're the one who started it. And then they go home and tell their parents, oh, this book was so cool. I think it's just getting started and then talking about it. And for us, we set screen limits. Like, you want to use your iPad to look at stuff? Well, first you have to do the dishes, and first you have to read one chapter of this book. Then you get the reward of the screen. And that's a pretty easy habit to make.
So yeah, creating that vibe around kids, creating that norm of talking about good people, good habits to your
Hmm.
kids is a thing, I think, so that it becomes normal for your kids, right?
Yes. And around other parents, just talking about it.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously today's, I think, parents are also so much busy that the kids are watching those gaming videos on YouTube. I
Hmm.
think not that, not the kids are not watching like the podcasts which are good for them, maybe.
Yes. Yes. But again, that, in my opinion, that's a parent's decision. The kid did not buy that phone themselves. They did not pay for the subscription or the internet service themselves. So the parent is the regulator. And a lot of times with our kids, if I go and doing something, I come back in and they're looking at this, I'll say, hey, you can look at that later. You have to go outside for an hour. Go outside and do kid things.
Mm.
Or if you want to look at it, you have to watch. There's a YouTube series called Dr. Binocs. It's this very strange floating brain that has binoculars, but he teaches really good things about science, history, math, all this stuff. So if you want to watch that, first you have to watch 2 episodes of Dr. Binocs.
Mm.
So the parent is still the regulator of what they intake, even if they're
Yeah.
busy, because you have the power to say, nope, you cannot use that anymore. So,
Yeah. Coming to one more point, Dustin. See, you said parents are the regulator, but
hmm,
obviously, if your kids are small, you can regulate them, obviously. But I think
yes.
as kids grow, they think we have right to take our own decisions. I think this happens maybe when they are 16, 17, 18 year olds,
Hmm.
right? They say we are not robots, we have rights to take our own decisions, we know what to watch, and maybe if you keep regulating them on small things, they will get frustrated or maybe start hating you or maybe their parents,
Hmm.
right?
Yes. Um, my oldest child is 10, so I haven't had to face that yet. So I wouldn't be able to speak with any authority on how to handle that. What I think is that laying the foundation from age
Mm,
0 to about 12, 10, 12,
mm,
14 is when they're going to start being like, I'm my own person. I would assume the foundation before that is really strong. But even then, our cultures are probably quite different, but I know the way I grew up, even when I'm 16 and I think I know everything and my parents are stupid and you can't tell me what to do, they still have a leverage because let's say I had a vehicle. You don't get to use that vehicle anymore. Now I have to ask mom and dad for anywhere I want to go. Or the privileges going out with friends. They still have leverage and I think they can exercise that. Um, and then also, I think the foundational rules of leadership that, there's this old line that people don't care what you know unless they know that you care. So showing that I'm here for you and I care for you then gives you more authority to be like, hey, I see you just endlessly scrolling or not trying to do anything. Let's go for a walk and let's talk. Now, that's not going to work for everybody. I understand that. And parenting is so complex, and all four of our kids are different. It's a tool, I think. It's maybe not the tool and the answer. And again, that age that you're talking about in that rebellion, I haven't had to face it yet, so I'm just hoping and praying. But I think
Yeah.
also the foundation of we have this discipline from as soon as you can walk and talk, there's discipline. And then having a faith, whatever it is, that there's a higher power, you're part of something bigger and you don't want to disappoint the family and your God, whoever that might be, Mother Nature, whatever. Like you don't want to wreck these beautiful gifts that you have. That foundation is strong also because it's not just mom and dad saying it. There's this set of rules that we all agree upon based on our religion that you also are violating. And that's more than you. That's your whole community. That's your spirit.
Yeah. So setting the foundations right is important, I think, as a parent.
Yes, from a very early age. And what I used to do that I still often do, I would get in conversation at a restaurant or wherever with someone who's a parent who's older than me and has older kids and say, what's your number one parenting advice? I do that all the time and just listen. And there were varied, but there was some consistency of love them, talk to them often. So, and hey, let me take that phone away from you. How was your day? You know, Tell
Mhm.
me your favorite part of the day so that there's an open conversation. Um, and then one guy said to me, "Don't let up. You think you got him disciplined? Don't let up." And that really stuck with me because, like, oh, you left this cup out on the table. I could put it up. I'm gonna go to your bedroom and get you. Come back. Hey, you left this out. Don't let up. So that
Mhm.
hopefully, from age 0 to 10, 12, when they start rebelling, those things are so ingrained that they just do it. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, any challenges which you faced while building the product?
Yes, you don't know what you don't know. So like I said, I just jumped in. I got on Alibaba and started reaching out to manufacturers. Can you do this thing? I had several samples made. The challenge of if I order one of these medic multi-tools, triangle bandage, and get it shipped from a manufacturer in India or China or Malaysia or wherever it is, that's going to cost me like $50 for one, and that's expensive until I get to the point of mass production. So it was a challenge of just throwing money at it and having to try and retry. Just learning all the things you don't know. I was in public service for 21 years. I had never tried to run a business. And the challenge was just all the learning. But we are so blessed now. Google AI wasn't quite as prevalent 3 years ago, but now I can get on Gemini or Grok or whichever one, ChatGPT, and learn so much so quickly that it makes it, you kind of don't have an excuse, you know?
Mm.
So that was a challenge and just throwing money at things. So I initially, like I said, I'll jump in both feet. Once I had a design that I thought was great with the Medic Multi tool, I ordered 3,000 of them. I should have only ordered 1,000 because those went to Amazon and sat there until the point where they said, "Hey, these haven't sold. We have to ship them back to you." So now I had to pay shipping back to me. And then 6 months later, pay shipping again back to Amazon. So now there's no profit in any of those. But you learn as you go. I wouldn't have even known to ask that question of how many should I order, and no one could answer it because it's a unique product. So all the challenges are the unknown. So again, books, podcasts, and asking people, just leaning on people and saying, "Hey, what would you do here or there?" is so valuable. Yeah. Oh, another challenge is there's not enough hours in the day. And well, who do I hire to help me? I don't have any money to hire anybody. And recently, to overcome that challenge, a friend of mine who owns a business recommended in the Philippines, there's a website. I can't remember. It's like Philippine Jobs, or I can't remember. But their economy is just slightly different than ours, such that $5 an hour or 10 is a pretty good salary. And that is something that I can afford. And they're very intelligent, hardworking, capable, normal, everyday people. They just have a different economy. So now I've started working with a couple people in the Philippines who help me do all these tasks that I just don't have enough hours. And it's been wonderful. So overcoming the challenge of there not enough hours in the day is finding help at a price you can afford. That was pretty huge. Now, that didn't happen early. That's 2 or 3 years into doing everything myself. Of course, my wife helps me a lot too, so I can't say myself. Um, yeah, hiring. And then since then, books and podcasts, people I've heard many times, hire early as you can, hire someone because you can't. You'll never scale doing everything by yourself, is what they say. I'm sure people have. I don't think I can.
Awesome. So tell me about your like Alibaba journey. Like you talked about Alibaba, you went to Alibaba to
Hmm.
get some manufacturers, right?
Yes.
Give me some guidance. If I want to build a product, how can I get find manufacturers? How can I get the manufacturing done right in the right price? And what are the mistakes I can avoid? Like you said, shipping mistakes. One product cost you $50 for shipping.
Solid question. So pick a product. You wanna design a better microphone because yours is lacking, whatever. Alibaba, I mean, just the internet in general makes it. You said you're 24. When I was 24, the internet was still somewhat new. Like we used it, but it's the last 2 decades have been an explosion. So we have so much accessibility. What I did, I went on Alibaba and I sought out manufacturers for our textiles, the triangle bandage, and also for first aid kits. um, and I would make it a point to always contact at least 3 different manufacturers and say, "This is my request," and then see what they say. "Yes, I can. No, I can't." Well, that's an easy filter. How they respond, if it's with minimal detail or minimal interest, I can filter them out. If I see someone is very responsive, they're asking intelligent questions. "Okay, exactly what type of fabric do you need?" Exact all these things like, "Okay, I wanna work with it." And then I'm gonna order at least 2, but probably 3. When I first ordered the Medic Multi-Tools, I had 3 different manufacturers from 2 different countries, and it wasn't a mistake, the shipping, it's the fact that it's coming. They have to set up their machine to make 1 or 2. That's expensive, but if you set it up to make 1,000, each one, of course, is less. So, you just have to suck it up and say, "Okay, I could try to save money and order 1 sample from 1 manufacturer that cost me $50. But if I order from 3, I may not even know the differences I'm looking at because 'cause I've never tried to create a fabric product before. So I hold this one and I hold this one and say, "Man, this one feels stronger and softer. What exactly type of cotton is that?" Question I would have known to ask if I hadn't held them in my hands. So spend the money to work with 2 or 3 different ones, if it's the microphone or whatever it is, and then use it and put your hands on it. And then just make a decision. Oh, and then the price negotiation. So maybe I found 2 that I thought were both of equal quality, and I say, "Hey, you said this was gonna cost me $5 a piece. Can you do it for 4.25?" If one says yes and the other one says no, well, there's another filter. So it's kind of common sense, right? I'm gonna test 3 of them. I'm gonna negotiate price on all 3 of them, or 2, or whichever ones are equal quality, and then just see. And even having done that, like my wife, since I got comfortable with working with Alibaba, asked me to order things for her summer camp, water bottles with their logo, t-shirts, etc., different little things. And I have gone through that same process. I'm going to talk to 3, order 2 or 3 and test them. Found one, everything seemed great, and then something went wrong with, I can't remember what it was. And I was like, "Hey, this wasn't the right quality," or whatever the thing was. And the person basically said, "Too bad, I already have your money." I was like, so even going through all that, people are people, and there's some good and there's some bad. And I sent in the report to Alibaba, I screenshotted the quotes, nothing ever happened. So there still will be failures. So, okay, well, I'm not going to use that person anymore. That is going to happen no matter what. You're going to have bad dealings because there are bad people. So just, does that
So
fully answer what you asked on how you would go about, or is there more
yeah,
questions to that?
yeah. Coming, so you got the product manufactured, right?
Hmm.
Let's come to sales. You have to sell on Amazon, obviously.
Hmm.
You can sell on retail stores, obviously, and obviously, I think your product is of kids, so you can get it sold or maybe get it availed in maybe hospitals or maybe schools or communities. I think so.
Possibly.
Yeah. So, which were your earliest sales channel? And uh, I want to know the learnings which you got from each of them.
So still learning. The B2C, business to customer, seems like the easiest route because I have this thing. I want you individual to buy it. The learnings is Amazon just seemed like a no-brainer because you kind of have to. It's the 500-pound gorilla. So I just went on YouTube and there was a 4-hour video on how to list a product, and I spent 20 hours on that video doing each step to get everything set up on Amazon. The learnings in the sales, I just put it out there. I used Google to help me find search engine optimization, the SEO, to put the right keywords on there. And I just put it out there. Um, and I was selling almost nothing. So, like, huh. So eventually I sought out a company to manage the Amazon side for me, and I paid them a lot. But they did increase sales tremendously, but it didn't cover the cost of them. So I had to stop working with. They did a great job, but I had to stop working. And then for outside, because we have a website as well for outside sales, truthfully, the learning is still going on. Shark Tank showed us that advertising works. Enough people see it, people will buy it because the sales shot up on those days and then slowly trickled down. So I know that I need more eyeballs to see the product to find the right type of people who say, yes, I want that. And that's with any product. And I still haven't found the proper mix of you will have to pay for advertising, I think, to pay this much to generate enough sales to cover it. And it's a difficult thing. And even I've talked to Daymond and he said, just keep trucking away at it. Here's some suggestions, but ultimately you have to keep testing things and find what works for yourself. He's been good about it, but just have to keep trying. So I can't guide anyone perfectly on how to do that. One thing I have started doing, especially after being on Shark Tank, Mike, people email, hey, can we advertise for you? Hey, can we market? Can we PR for you? And I've started saying, yes, if you can do it on a commission only basis, which is tough for an advertiser because they might advertise your product today and someone has it in their head and buys it a month later. And I can't tie that directly to them and pay them. So I understand wanting to say, no, I'm not going to work on a commission basis. However, I've also spent money and not had a return with 3 different agencies. So I found one that said, yeah, we'll do commission only. We want to build you up. And I started working with them a couple weeks ago. So we'll see. I wish I could tell you more on how to do it, but we are still learning how to make those product sales work. Well, you said we're individuals or businesses. I have spent a lot of time and still do almost every day reaching out to other businesses. So if you've got My Unc's First Aid, I'm going to say, hey, my unc, would you like to carry our product within your first aid? And that's the B2B side. So I'm selling it to you wholesale and you're selling it to your customers who already trust you. That has over the last couple of years generated selling 100 here, 50 there, where I'm getting those bulk sales. And I still continue to try to build those relationships. It is a grind. It's every day. Reach out to 10 people and maybe one replies. Keep doing that.
Awesome. So yeah, when you decided to apply on Shark Tank,
When?
yeah, what was the mindset?
Oh, okay. That one's cool. That's another that I think is a God thing. We would go to trade shows. That's another thing we do to promote. And standing there at the booth, wife, kids, we're talking to people as they pass by. And several people looked at this and looked at our family, and our kids are vibrant, said, you guys need to go on Shark Tank. Haha, that would be neat one day. Maybe. Another person says, you guys need to go on Shark Tank. Dang, okay. Another person and another. And then 3 different people who had been on Shark Tank said, you guys need to go on Shark Tank. You got the family, it's a product to help people. And finally, we're like, okay, we
Like,
hear you. Let's check this out. And my wife, God bless her, she gets on her phone, she looks, hey, there's open casting calls in Philadelphia next month. We don't have money, honey. My business cannot afford, our personal income cannot afford to go there and do that. She's like, well, my business will pay for it, her summer camp. And it's my birthday present because the audition was the day after her birthday. So we're going. All right, babe.
uh,
So it was so many people suggesting it that finally we couldn't ignore it. And then my wife just saying, we're doing this. We're just doing it. So we stood in line for hours and and we practiced really hard on the scripts. It's tough with kids because you have to make it fun. You don't want to burn them out with, I don't want to practice anymore. So an hour's worth of practice might take 2 days because you work a little bit and like, okay, I don't want to burn you out. Let's go do something fun and make it exciting for them. So that's what led us up to being on Shark Tank. Suggestions from people.
awesome. Share us some moments like which we didn't saw on the TV or maybe on the screen. What
There
was
was a
How was the real experience different from the virtual experience?
There is a lot different. So it is a TV show for the purpose of entertainment. And so there's also time missing. The initial pitch, like you see, is something everyone does. And after that, they tell us, after that initial pitch, this is a business negotiation between you and the sharks, and Shark Tank has nothing to do with that. We're just filming it. So we talked to them for about 45 minutes in total, and they cut it to, I think, 7 minutes. So there's a lot that was missing. A lot of like hard questions and kind of like Mr. Wonderful, I can't remember if it aired, but he said, "You don't have a business, you have a product." And he's being realistic. He's correct. And a lot of those other hard questions, sales, I didn't have a lot of sales going in. So talking about that, one thing that we loved that we did is we had our two older girls, our 10 or 8-year-old, we had an arm, a bleeding control arm, just a prop that has little wounds on it. And they invited Allison to come up and they showed her how to put on a tourniquet. It was a great demonstration. Everybody was happy. Allison did the thing, but they cut that out. I'm not a producer. I don't know why. They have their reasons, but that was really cool. My wife actually spoke a lot and had a lot of good points. And for whatever reason, they cut a lot of that out and had more of me speaking because we are a team. I say I on these occasions, but my wife has been absolutely the right hand in so many ways. So that was different. No one could ever capture or film or demonstrate the nerves that are going on. It was hilarious. After we left there, my unc, and we celebrated and we got back to our hotel, we both were just like, oh, because of the emotional exhaustion, and they were like, "Did you say that?" I don't remember what happened right there. It was a little bit of blackout because we're operating on what's in our core, what we just spit out when they ask these questions, and trying to think clearly, but the nerves were so high that parts of it we didn't remember, and we watched the show, it was like, "Oh, okay, I remember that now." So, the other thing that's cool is behind the scenes, how it flows. Everyone there was so kind and so helpful, doing makeup, having the green room, having to wait until you're called, seeing the massive amount of work that goes involved to that show, the banks of computer screens and audio and cameras. Yeah, I've never experienced anything like that. So that was cool for us and cool for our kids to see the tremendous amount of work that goes into a 7-minute clip. I mean, tremendous amount of work and manpower. So that was cool. Did that answer everything as far as things that we
Ye-
didn't see?
yeah, obviously. Yeah. One of the, like, obviously Damon invested in you. I would
Mhm.
say, I would ask you, what were the core learnings? Like, what are the most important learnings which you got from Sharks, or maybe from Damon?
One thing that was interesting that Robert said was he didn't believe that this was a profitable venture, but he said, "I see your passion." And sometimes he didn't say God, but he's like something like the universe, or sometimes when you go down a path, things will unfold that that's the path you're supposed to be on. So I appreciated that to maintain that open mind, that to keep going down this path and know that it may turn in a direction that you didn't anticipate. And I'm open to that. The Everybody else was kind of well-wishing. Lori suggested we open a school, and I would like to do that, but in my opinion, for one, that takes a lot of money. But also, even if I have a grand school, how many kids can I teach in 1 year? 200, 500, 1,000? Whereas if I sell 100,000 of these, maybe it's not the same level of teaching at a school, but we're introducing some level of capability of first aid and leadership to 100,000 people versus 1,000. So in my opinion, the scale is better to start with the product. So, but that was something to consider. I have to respect her opinion. And as far as Damon, what we've learned. So I read almost all of his books. I've listened to a bunch of his podcasts and his speeches to learn, and it is much of the same things you hear everywhere else. Not to downgrade them, but it's grit. It's don't make excuses. Keep doing something every day. Understand that you will fail. For sure, you're going to fail at some things, and keep going and ask other people. Another, I think, very sage advice he gave, people who are entrepreneurs are ideas. Boom, boom. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. And I would venture to say you probably are too. If you're 24 and you're already doing a podcast regularly, you probably have other things that you want to do. And he says, get one thing right first. Pause on all these other ideas you have because they're there. Get one thing right, because if you're trying to do everything, you're not doing anything. And so that has caused me to allocate my time differently to where I'm going to focus on the affiliate relationships, the business to business, and continuing. We have a pretty good Instagram following now because we're putting out just educational videos, not sales pitches. This is how you handle a tourniquet. This is how you handle frostbite, etc. And he's like, keep doing that. Then we'll approach these other ideas. So that I think is really good advice, that if you have a thing you want to do, you want to create a class or a product, really dial down and get that one thing going before you disperse your efforts into all these other places, because then doing a little bit. I already said it, if you're doing everything, you're not doing
Mm.
anything. So
Yeah.
I think that's good advice.
What changed in your life? What changed in your business after the Shark Tank?
Sales was really good. Even after that trickle down, there's this spike because you look at the bar chart and there's a trickle down, but even that baseline trickle down is significantly higher than it was before. When you say what changed, we had accumulated a significant amount of debt getting to where we were. So now we're just able to breathe. We are not buying new cars and going
Mm,
on fancy vacations.
mm,
We're just able to breathe a little bit. So the change is slightly less stress because of that, but also a lot more work because I can't stop. I have to keep it going to make it a successful business. The other change is just just doubling down on the focus based on what Damon said. You're going to focus here, get the one thing right.
mm,
Having the validation of those sales and of Damon having enough faith and Allison having some interest to want to invest in us, because everybody's going to think their idea is great, but having that little bit of validation really is gives a lot more strength, a lot more tailwind to keep you going. That's huge, and of course, not everyone's going to have that. So for someone else, if I was going to offer advice, seek out people who do two things: one, tell you the truth. Hey, this idea is not going to work. You should stop and consider that because that may not be stop, it may be turn and go this way instead. And seek out those who really believe in you and are willing to push you forward. And for us, my wife's sister is such a wonderful cheerleader. She will tell you like it is, and when it's good, she will push you. Hey, what else can we do? She says we. She's just family, but she cares so much. And when you have people like that that push light and love and
mm.
positivity into your life, take that and surround yourself with those people. And the negative people, if they're being negative just to be, you can't do that, ignore them. If they're being negative in a constructive way, listen to them. I don't know. I think I went off away from your question there.
No.
What was the, what was the question?
I would extend this by asking, like, you have a, like, good partner, obviously, who
Yes.
supports you a lot. I think
Yes.
throughout the conversation I heard a lot about her. So one personal question, if you can answer: how to choose? Like, obviously I don't know the story, your before your maybe marriage, before having
Mhm.
kids. How to choose the right partner for you? Like, who adds that positivity or adds that motivation in your life?
This is an essential. So I'm glad that you asked. And if people who are your age are listening to this, it's, in my opinion, the most important decision you can make in your life. I mean, if you're going to spend hopefully the rest of your life with this person, it's massive. And in the fire department, so many stories I heard of my brother firefighters having gone through divorce for whatever reason. And it's heartbreaking. And first, every person's answer will be different and every person's situation is different. So this is just my opinion. It may not fit for everyone else. My opinion is to to put yourself out there and date. Obviously, you have to go do that. You have to go present yourself in a way that you think is worthy, so that person that you mentioned, the idea of a person who's just scrolling and doesn't want to do anything constructive, are you presenting yourself in such a way that someone is going to be attracted to that? So go produce, do good things in the world, not just turn in and look on your phone. Um, One thing that was valuable to me is that I dated a lot. I didn't get married till I was 32, and I dated a lot, and I've dated some wonderful women. But if I realized that that just like huge passion wasn't there, I'd cut it off. And I remember breaking up with this one woman, and I told my friends, a couple that were very close friends, so yeah, I told her I just didn't see myself falling in love with her. Like, you told her that? That's kind of mean. I was
Mm,
like, what? She's a wonderful person. The point is, if you can't know in your heart this is it, then it's probably not it. I remember I dated this one woman, wonderful woman, for 2.5 years. We lived together for a year and a half. And the question of marriage obviously is going to come up between friends and family. Hey, you gonna, and I'd always be like, maybe. Well, that's the answer. Maybe means no.
mm,
When I finally started dating my wife, within a few weeks, I was like, yep, that's it. No question, not maybe, not we'll date for a year and see. And that's such a hard thing to describe unless you've experienced it. All these other people, like I said, wonderful people I dated. Family loved them, friends loved them, I loved them, but there wasn't that, yep. So, in my opinion, if there's any doubt, the answer is no. When you know 100%, you know in your core and there's not a question. And then of course, what I had some sage advice from a friend of mine. I was dating this girl who's really a good person, and, I asked him, just like you asked me, "How do you know?" I said, "Bill, how do you" it's a friend of mine from the fire department named Bill, and he said, "Well, it's like this. Let's say there's 50 characteristics of a person that's your perfect mate. Some of them are weighted higher than others, religion, do they want kids? Like, these are heavier weight, but there's 50. Don't expect you'll ever find 50, that's impossible. You're not. However, what you need to ask yourself, if right now you've got 43, is that good enough, or are you waiting for 47?" I broke up with that woman the next week. I was like, "Nope,
Mm,
I want 47."
mm,
And so, whatever that means to you, it meant a lot to me. I felt that this person did have that, whatever that number, I'm making up the
mm,
number, 43, but I want 47. And that realization came, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna break up with you. However that went, I don't remember exactly. And then when that right person comes, it's such a cheesy saying, when you know, and it's also so true. So, and understand those values. I know one couple where one person is very religious and one
mm,
person is an atheist. And that may be one of the 50, but that's a really big one. And I'm
mm.
concerned that I don't know how that's going to work out. I hope it does, but you have to ask yourself what's the most important to yourself, for your mate, and then
Yeah.
the it factor, that when that's an it factor that you cannot describe. It's just there.
Yeah, obviously, while you got married in 32, like obviously, a lot of women you broke up with, and obviously there will be women who broke up with you, right?
Yes, that happened too.
So how you handle rejections? Suppose if you are being with someone for 1 or 2 years
Hmm.
and then you broke up, obviously it has some effect on your heart.
Absolutely.
So how do you handle that? How did you handle that?
I had one person that I truly loved that broke up with me, and that was hard. That was a few years of just 2 years, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's truly sad.
In that moment, I don't think you can receive good reasoning because your emotions are just, oh, I'm so brokenhearted.
Yes.
Um, the best way I can answer that is your thoughts and your beliefs and the things you want are very powerful. And so if you can focus your thoughts on what you want and try to get it, that means a lot. I'm not saying that in the right way. And the other thing is to accept that when you think and desire certain things,
Mm,
God or the universe or whatever you want to call it might say, I hear you, and that's not what's best for you. And to, again, someone just broke up with you, you're not going to hear that. But if you can allow yourself time to reflect, okay, ownership, I told you that book, Extreme Ownership. What did I do to not make this work? And if you can recognize, maybe I went out too much with friends, maybe I didn't show affection enough. If I wasn't bringing 100% to the table, then it's probably my fault. And maybe that bridge is burned forever. So then correct those so that next time you can be better. The other thing is to accept at some point, allow yourself the possibility to accept that this was not the path for you and that there's something better down the road. Uh, Oh, that's a hard thing to answer. And
mm,
leaning on friends and family, of course. Just know having faith that if you are seeking out what you want and you're praying or thinking or seeking out that right person every day, that it will come, and it will take time. And one of the cool sayings that I've heard before is sometimes God doesn't say no, he says not yet.
mm.
You hear no, but he's saying not yet. And so that game is a really hard one to coach on, and I'm not anywhere close to a therapist. Those are just my thoughts. But it will be hard. You're going to, just like in
Mm,
business, in
mm,
relationships, in sports, you're going to take some shots and just
mm.
keep going.
Awesome. So has entrepreneurship shaped you as a person? Like what changes it's done on your maybe personal life, like as a father, as a husband, or as a friend, as a person?
It has shown me how much harder it is than I thought, that it takes a lot more work than I thought. And it's something, I can't remember which shark said it. It was one of the quotes, not during the show, just from a book or something, said, I would rather make $40,000 a year working 80 hours a week for myself than make 80,000 a year working 40 hours a week for someone else. There is a component of freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur that feels good, that this is my path, I'm cutting it. Of course, there's faith and there's luck involved some, but you're doing it. And so it has made me appreciate that journey a lot more, made me just be grateful for the things that we have, and also to know that if I want this to succeed, I just have to keep going. It has strained a little bit on, you said, the family and the friend and relationships, because I work more now than I ever did when I was in the fire department. I spend more hours working. And another thing, I had a friend of mine tell me, when I was considering doing this full time, and he has a photography company that he runs full time, teaching and stuff, multiple employees. He said it never switches off. Like I might leave my office at 5 or 6 p.m., but at 10 at night when I'm laying in bed, I'm still thinking, I need to do this tomorrow. I need to do that. And I didn't have that as much in the fire department because when I leave shift, someone else is taking that shift over. I don't have to be concerned with it. It's covered.
Mm.
And now it never switches off. So it is a bumpy road, and it's also rewarding whenever we get messages from people. And that's another thing. If you have a product or a service that you love, sending those reviews, it is fuel for our soul. To someone for someone to say thank you for your training, thank you for your product, that's the fuel that keeps you going. And that means
Mm.
a lot. It means so much more than I think if you worked in a corporate job, what a pay raise could mean. That fulfillment of I created this, it helped someone and they said thank you. That's huge. Yeah, I think to
Awesome.
sum up, it's a lot more work than I thought. It's harder than I thought, and it's also extremely fulfilling when it works.
Awesome. So last two, three questions, Destin. Any advice which you would like to give to first time founders, like who haven't done any business? What
Uh,
skills they must learn?
So lean on AI heavily. I use Gemini daily now, and whichever one you use, Chat, Grok, it doesn't matter. That is such a valuable resource. To me, it would be like trying to go cut your grass with scissors versus with the lawnmower. I have this technology of a lawnmower, I should use it. AI is so powerful. So that's one, because you can learn anything. And you could even put in the prompt into AI and say, I want to learn how to create. I'll use that microphone example that you have. I want to create a product. Give me a plan of things I need to do every day. And AI will say, "Boop, boop, 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 here's your plan." You can tweak it over time, but that is such a valuable resource. The other advice, I said it earlier from one of your questions, is start today or this week as soon as you can, because it is a ugly feeling to look back and say, man, a year has gone by and I've done nothing. It's a conversely a beautiful feeling to look back in a year and say, dang, like I said, I got the website up. I
Mm.
have this first product being delivered. I taught some classes to kids and they loved it. Maybe it took a year to do one thing here and one thing there, but you did it. So start early, work at it every day. And also, one of the things that I think is an odd thing to say and also is powerful, my wife says this a lot, speak it to the universe. What does that mean? Maybe it means pray about it. Maybe it means keep it in the front of your mind. A lot it means talk to people about it. People say, hey, my unc, what you been up to? How are you doing? I started working on this thing. I'm creating this new microphone. Oh, really? Tell me more. Or if they say, oh, cool, and they move on, that's not the person you need to talk about. When people lean in and say, tell me more, that's the person. And it might just be some fuel of saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Or it might be, hey, I know this guy who who also could help you. When you speak it to the universe and it becomes a part of not nagging, not annoying, where you're bothering people with it,
Mm.
you bring it up, you read the room. If they're not interested, stop talking about it. If they are, because you never know who you might meet, how they can help you, how you can help them. And that human connection is so huge. So use AI, speak it to the universe, start right now and do a little bit every day. Know for sure that you will fail and you will get punched in the face and have the grit to keep going. Also, there's uh, a gentleman from the UK that I listen to his coaching calls once a week. So having mentors like coaching calls is huge. And he has this system that he always says it's do, fail, learn, pivot. So like I said, start today, go do, know that you're going to fail, but then you learn and then you pivot. So I said I started wanting just to make a cool first aid kit and I pivoted to the flagship being the Medic Multi-Tool because I think it's more useful, more flashy, more universal. Try or do, fail, learn, pivot.
Awesome. If you had to start today, what would you do differently?
That's a hard question to answer because just like in any facet of life, when you start walking a path, it may lead you to places you didn't expect, but you couldn't have got there if you didn't walk that path. The other than what I just mentioned, the understand you're going to fail, understand it's going to be harder than you thought, be prepared for that. There's not a whole lot I would have done different because it caused me to learn and to pivot in that moment. The I think hiring early, seeking out help earlier, so that I can diversify my efforts. I can hand off something. I would have sought that out sooner. I would have not ordered 3,000 units. I would have probably only
Mm.
ordered one because it ended up costing me money. I would have spent more time earlier on the B2B, reaching out to people who already have existing platforms. So, like I said, you have a first aid store. Hey, would you like to carry my product? I think that's a force multiplier. Someone already trusts you and your platform. If you carry my stuff, they'll trust that as well. Oh, social media. what I would have done different is pay more attention to that. Damon said that. He's like, whether you like social media or hate it, it is the modern day advertising, and you need to get your brand out there and you need to build brand awareness. And he talks about there's a thing called his from one of his books. It's I might not say it exactly right, but it's item, product, brand, lifestyle. And the example he gives is I need a pin. That's an item. I don't care what pin, it's a pin. That's one level of let's say customer loyalty. There is no loyalty. But then this brand, let's say, is Pilot. Okay, I like that, but I'm going to buy that brand. Okay, that's a little bit more loyalty. And then what did I say? Oh, the brand. Okay, somehow I skipped one, but it's a brand that's recognizable. Recognizable. And then there's things like lifestyle, where I don't know if there's maybe a brand in India where Nike is probably a good example.
Yeah.
That is not just a brand, it's a lifestyle. It says, "I'm active, I'm running, I'm out there with people playing basketball." That feels like a community, and he says, "That's where you need to get." So social media is a really good way to do that, and what I would go back and do different is pay more attention to that. At the beginning, I was like, "Okay, I need to be on social media. I wanna teach things." So it would be me talking about certain things, and the videos weren't getting many views. And just one day I posted this random, was not a planned, "This is gonna be great" video of my daughter doing a skill called wound packing, where if you have a junctional wound, you pack it because you can't put a tourniquet on it. And she's just talking about it and doing it. And I sent it and it got 2.5 million views. And then it was, oh, this is how the community, the lifestyle that I'm building responds. A kid, we're Warrior Kid Medic, teaching a skill that may seem intimidating, but if a kid can not only do it, but teach it. So then we started making more videos like that, and our community has grown in that way. So that's something I would do different that has helped to get our name out there and helped to feel good when people say, "Thank you for this video. I learned something." That's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. So thanks for coming, Dustin. It was a lovely conversation with you.
Thank you, Mayank. It was wonderful. You have great questions. You do a great job. Thank you. And thank you for being able to share things like this. I hope very much that inspires other people to go and do.
Yeah. That's my all my questions. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can ask. If you want to give any final advice to young audience, you can give.
Well, the last final advice, I didn't think about this or plan on it, but on our wall behind us, this is our family motto: do good, be good, and share. I think if you can find your absolute distilled down core values and approach everything, whether it's school, relationships, business, with those core values, am I, for us, doing good in the world, being a good example? Am I sharing the gifts that God gave me? Whatever those core values are, set them in your mind and approach every single thing with that. I think that's a good way to live a fulfilling life.
Awesome, Dustin. So thanks a lot for coming. Thanks for our valuable time. And it was I learned a lot from you. And obviously, hopefully, we will meet you soon.
Yes. Yes. Thank you again. It was a pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
Uh,